Hey guys, Blakey here and welcome back to another video. Today I've got another devlog for my game Silhouette Dash that I have releasing next month. It is just a simple 2D platformer with the player having the ability to dash and a few other things. So the last devlog was about a month ago and a lot has gone on in development since then. Not a ton, but we've definitely got quite a lot of work done on just a lot of various levels. A ton of bug fixes, like loads and loads. I had a long list on the app Trello, which you can use on Windows, which is a long to-do list and stuff like that. And I got tons and tons of bugs done, and I've also added a lot of different aspects to the game, some menu UI polishing, some player prefab polishing, and also another thing that we're going to be talking about later on in the video. So the first thing that I did want to point out was the fact about bugs that I've managed to fix in the game. So I had a ton of bugs. So one of the main bugs that I had that was really consistent throughout so many different levels was that when you first open the level, the player is in a jumping animation, and that's because of the way I had a collider at the start of a lot of the levels was to prevent a weird jumping issue that I had right at the start. But then I managed to fix the player's collision. So I kind of had this issue for no reason, but I kept putting it off for ages and ages, and I was like, right, I need to go through every single level and fix this dodgy collision because it's just not necessary. So I managed to fix that on pretty much all of the levels, which is like, there's like over 20 different levels now. And it took me a while, but now I'm super happy with that. And building upon that, the player had a collision which was it had a circle collider around our player. And this was to have, so when the player goes to make a jump and misses, he'll kind of roll off using like the circle platform will kind of roll off, but that was giving silly issues and it just made it look really stupid. So I can't believe I didn't think of this right at the start, but I just got rid of that and I added a box collider, which was there anyway, but I added a new one and set it so that collider has absolutely zero friction. So if he does miss it, he won't just get stuck on the side of the platform, he will just slide straight off. And now when you guys do first play the game, you'll definitely notice that it feels a lot more smooth and realistic for a little 2D pixel art guy. Another small bug fix that I thought I'd mention as part of this video, so we're going to be talking a lot about bug fixes, was in the main menu. Now the main menu has, it's an interactive main menu, which is really cool and I think is a good way of introducing the game and how to play the game to the player without being forced into any levels. But straight off the bat, when you jump around in the first level, there was a few like spaces that I wasn't happy with and the player was getting stuck and stuff, and I thought that would just be the absolute worst way to advertise a game if they go on and think, why the hell is his foot just chilling at the end of a platform when he's not actually standing on the platform, and they just quit the game and never open it again, which is obviously not what we want. So I managed to go around the main menu and just fix all of the colliders for that, and now it looks an absolute ton better. While still on the topic of bug fixes, another main bug fix that I'm really happy I got sorted out was scene transitions. Now the scene transitions were kind of working and they kind of weren't. So what was working is that when you open a level, the transition moved very smooth, and this black circle that I've got, it kind of comes and it fades out of the way. It goes to the right or the left, I can't remember what one. But an issue that I was having was that when you go out of the level, the transition wouldn't go smooth, it would just kind of flicker out, and it was so weird, and I was just like, why is this happening? But I managed to fix the script and now that works perfectly. And while I was on that, I managed to change it so that when the player dies, it freezes the game. So when the player hits a spike, for example, he won't just carry on moving while the scene transitions, because that would just be weird. I have it so he hits a spike, these particles go everywhere, and once the particles come out of him, it sounds really gory, but it's really not. Once the particles emit out of him, the game is freezing using time scale. That sets to 0 in a coroutine, because if you know me, you know that I really do love a coroutine when it comes to C#. So a coroutine is used to freeze the game, the transition starts, and then right before the level reloads, time scale is set to 1 again, and that means we can move on to the next level. And this ended up turning out really good, and just all of these little bug fixes are things that you have to think about in your game because they're just so important. You can't miss one out because it's things that players pick up on, and just it really ruins the immersion no matter what kind of game it is. The immersion is just ruined when you see some stupid ass bug just flying about. So yeah, glad that is out of the way. One thing I added to a couple of the levels was I changed the camera system for just a few levels, not all of them, because I'm actually really happy with the way we have the camera system. The way for most levels it's a fixed camera, and you get to see the player and the level in its entirety for the whole time. You can kind of evaluate what you've got to do for the whole level before you start trial and error. But the exception to that is there are a few levels that had some camera systems where it follows the player and it's quite close up. But what I didn't like about that is that it wasn't smooth, and on some levels I had to have it so the camera only follows on one axis, because if it followed on both axes, for whatever reason my camera shake didn't work. Like the camera shake just stopped working unless it was on one axis. So I settled for that, but then I decided to implement Cinemachine. Now, if you know what Cinemachine is, it's an easy way of implementing smooth camera movement and camera following with virtually no code required at all. So it's a good thing to do for like beginners in Unity and stuff. And I was debating about adding it right at the start of the project, but then the issue I had with that is that it took away the camera shake that I wanted, because I love the camera shake for when the player dashes, when the player collides with like the spikes, and when he dies and stuff. It's just really effective, and the Cinemachine, I couldn't find a way to add camera shake and Cinemachine into one object, but have found a way to do that in some way. So when the player hits walls and stuff, the Cinemachine has a camera shake now, which is really cool. So for some levels there is that in there, and it looks really cool, and it actually makes a really nice change from other levels that do have a fixed camera, and then we go into the Cinemachine, and then we go out of that into another fixed camera level. So it's a really cool constant change of levels to keep the player engaged. One thing that I am going to talk about is that it's quite boring, but it's pretty much is going to come up in devlogs like this with this kind of games, that I've just added more levels. And I went through a time when I just couldn't think of any levels to add, and that's why I took such a long break. So I had like no inspiration to create new levels, but I've came back to the project and I've got a lot more levels in mind, and I've came up with some a lot more cool creative levels that are still in development. They're going to take a while to finish, but the levels are really fun to make, and I think they're fun to play, and especially at the point in the game where we're coming towards the end side of the levels, and the levels are pretty tough. Like, they're getting hard, but that's what I want. I don't want the game to be at you like you can easily fly through it in 10 minutes. Like, to me that's just not, it would just be pointless. So I'm really glad that we have this system going now where you can, you know, constantly die, but you keep trying, and then you get that triumph when you complete the level and you move on to the next one, and it's just really cool. While we're talking about level design, I want to talk about one of the main things that I wanted to mention in this video, and that is enemy artificial intelligence. So because it's such a simple 2D platformer, I didn't want to have AI that's too crazy for such a limited dimensional game, and obviously you're not going to have such advanced AI for a 2D game like this, but I wanted to add some, so it kind of makes the player think about another thing when they enter a new level. So I've implemented some pathfinding AI, and the first few levels that I've done with it is just a little spike, and when the player gets into a certain vicinity towards that spike, it'll start slowly chasing him, and it will find the quickest path to do that. Now, the first way I'd done this was using the A-star pathfinding system, which you may have watched. If you are studying Unity, you'll know that Bracky's done a video on A-star pathfinding, and I added that, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the lack of control you have over it, so I decided to just code it, script it using Blackthorn Prod's video, which was so easy to do, but that's like the basis for it, and then you can add so many more things to it, which is really nice. So now, yeah, we do have a few levels where, like for example, one of them you drop down, and then all of a sudden there's a spike chasing you from behind, and you have to kind of navigate your way through the level, and it's just a really cool system. Regardless of all of the things that I've still added, there is still so much to do. For example, I want to add some sound effects. I think sound effects are going to add such a new vibe to the game, which I'm really excited to implement. And there's, for example, a new type of, you can call it an enemy, I guess. One thing I want to add is that if you know the YouTuber Jonas Tyrola, in his game Will You Snail, there is a system where as he walks along objects, spikes come up from the ground if you stay on that like block for too long, and I think that is so cool, and I'd love to add a similar kind of system in my game for towards the end levels, just really decrease the chance of that player making it in the first few tries. I really want to make it a tough last few levels, so it's a genuine triumph if you do make it that far. But I don't know how that's going to go. Maybe we'll see that in the next devlog, maybe you won't. Hopefully we will, but like I said, there's still a ton to do on my to-do list. I've still got to do like I want to make a game trailer, I want to make some credits for the game, I want to kind of work on some more audio transitions. Obviously I've got to finish all of the levels, which is still going to take a while. I need to make an options menu, which shouldn't take too long, but it's still just an extra thing to do. I've got levels that I have made previously, but they're still unfinished. Like, there's a lot of polishing to do, and I've got to go through the whole game and just check some more bug fixes and stuff like that. Yeah, there is an absolute load to do, but at the same time, we've made so much progress in the last month. It's been such a fun project to make so far. Like, don't get me wrong, it's had its differences, and I'm going to make some videos on the things that I've definitely struggled with while developing this, but it has been a really fun experience, and we've still got a little while to go before release, before you guys can play this game. If you have any questions about this devlog or anything you want to see me add to the game, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you've got any videos you want me to make, any tutorials you want me to make, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm going to be doing some game reviews from a game designer's point of view. Thought I'd mention that, like, you know, The Last of Us 2 that is coming out, I'm going to do a game designer's review on that game, so I'm so excited for it, so I thought I'd just mention that at the end of the video as well. Other than that, guys, if you did enjoy the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe. I appreciate every single subscription to the channel even. If you don't like it, you can always go and unsubscribe after. I'll thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!